medical school, and we learn in residency to really become very efficient operators. And as we get into practice, those of us who do well financially learn to become extremely efficient. In other words, we learn to maximize our performance, right? Here's the problem. There's only so much of you, okay? In business, they call it scaling up. How do you scale up something? Well, in our business, if you will, the only way you can do that is to leverage yourself. So you can maximize your performance all you want, but there's only so many rhinoplasties and only so many facelifts you can do in one day, and then you're exhausted. So how do you leverage yourself? Well, there's a couple ways, okay? One is, one is to have some growth within your business, which is just organic, right? Continue to work on making your schedule extremely efficient, but that's kind of comes back to performance a little bit. The other is through profit centers. And that is a way to have something working for you while you're traveling, while you're asleep, while you're whatever. I mean, so if you say, okay, I'm going to take a dual pronged approach to this, I'm going to really work on becoming extremely efficient. And gosh, I could talk about that for an hour, because there is no better way to put something to your bottom line than to increase your efficiency and reduce your expenses. But the other, so again, adding profit centers, and we're going to talk about what that is. And I've done all of those, and I've failed on plenty of them too. And then, or there's another way, is you can actually acquire or buy a business. And it's one other way to grow your business and leverage yourself. So, but today we're specifically going to talk about, profit centers. I'm going to talk about, at the end, I'm going to go specifically through a number of profit centers that I've had. So let me just throw out a few of them. What do we mean? What is a potential profit center? And I say potential because they can be profitless centers, and I've had a few of those. And the most important thing is, if you do have one of those, to have the intestinal fortitude to cut your losses and move on. And I will tell you that the bank respects that a lot more. Your team will respect you a lot more. I've seen so many, because I've helped and worked with a lot of docs, where I've looked at their P&L and their balance sheet, and they have a piece of equipment, for example, that they're not making money on, or they're losing money on. They're making money over here, but then they're losing money over here. And many times they don't even know when they're losing money over here. So what are we talking about? Well, you could have skincare services, right? Okay, you could sell services and you could make some money on that. How about adding other practitioners? If you own the majority stock and you bring people on and your business is profitable, in other words, even after the doctor's compensation, there's something left over, there are dividends. Some people look at adding a fellow or having a fellowship program as a profit center. We've been through periods of time where our fellows have been profit centers. We've also been through, and for various reasons, times when we really have changed because we're really more focused on training and their education, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm more focused on that, and that's a whole complicated thing. I mean, we're doing trauma, and the fellows are doing well with it, and they're learning. But as that became less profitable, we changed gears a little bit. So you can have a medical spa, how about a laser, hair removal laser, cool sculpting. We're going to talk about those in detail. So each laser, I guess, could potentially be one more profit center. And we're going to I have a whole podcast on how to add equipment and technology. How about real estate? There are times when, a doctor says to me, hey, I'm seriously thinking about, should I add real estate to my portfolio? Because, sorry, my hair was a mess, was in the OR. Skincare products, you can make money on products. Do you know that only about 4% of what the cost is what goes in the jar? There's a lot of marketing, there's packaging and all that. And I know because I had a skincare product company at one point. You could add a surgery center. You could add other ventures. There are many other ventures you can get into, cryotherapy or Yeah, cryo. There's other things you can invest in. How about a research company, clinical trials? I mean, we know some of our colleagues that have done this and done it very, very well. You could put in another type of center, maybe a hair transplant center. We have been through different variations of that. We had one that I lost a lot of money on years ago. We've actually done very well with the one that we have currently. How about a destination practice, destination office? That could be a potential center. And, could be, some people really enjoy consulting, and you could have a consulting business. Before you move forward, I think you have to ask yourself the whys. Why do I want to do this? And we're going to talk about that a little bit. What are the potential whys? Other questions you need to ask yourself. Have you studied the business model well enough? I mean, let's face it. You don't want to go down the road and just break even. You bring in 100, you spend 100,000. I mean, what good is that? So I have a rule of thumb. I mean, first of all, what is the average profitability on a successful business? It ranges, folks. I would say the average, and this isn't something I made up. Those of you who know me I do a ton of reading. I read the Wall Street Journal every day, and if you want to get yourself an education, do that for 10 years. It's probably better than an MBA. But you want to see about a 10% at least profit in a business. I mean, think about it for a second. You got $1 million business, you've seen $100,000 of profit. Okay, you get a $3 million business, and all the mouths to feed. $300,000 profit, $3 million, $300,000 profit. By the time you pay state and federal taxes, you're down to $150. Okay, is it worth managing all that revenue and staff if you're going to make less than that? Honestly, net take home. And so I think you really want to look at if you have a business model, for example, whether it's a surgery center or whether it's a laser that's putting less than a 10% profit, you might want to consider getting rid of it. So I like to see somewhere in the 20 to 30 range. And the higher the barrier to entry into what you're doing, and those of you who don't know what a barrier to entry is, it's to get into that business. For example, to get into the business of being a surgeon is a lot more than to get into the business of having a laser hair removal. Okay, so the higher the barrier to entry, frequently you'll have a higher margin. And like I said, our surgery center, we struggle to, make a buck. We're lucky if we make 5%. Sometimes it's less. We've had years where it's been a break even, but there's an intangible benefit. So, it's important to look and say, what am I looking at? Profitability. How well have I studied this? You're not going to fail. You're not going to die. You can only learn and grow from it. You don't want to be overly optimistic. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs get themselves in trouble with that. You need to do your research, but a few other truisms. No risk, no reward. You can't expect someone else to take your risk and then you pick up the rewards. It doesn't work that way. When you commit, to something, you make it work, or you get rid of it. And so you grow up really fast when you start making these decisions on your own, versus being, and I don't want to use the word coddled, but maybe you're in a big group or you don't have those. But with those, there are some ties and frustrations that go along with them. And I know anyone who's on this call understands what I'm talking about, because a lot of people, walk around and go to work and are frustrated every day. So there is no, right. I am an absolute, and I'm going to do one of these podcasts on leadership, the importance of it, because most people throw that term around but do not understand how critical good leadership, and leadership solves so many of these problems.